Hello, my name is Sarah Turner. I am an executive and maternity coach, and I run a coaching organisation called Bloom People. I'm a mum of two. I've got two daughters. They are 9 and 12, and I've experienced 2 periods of maternity leave with both of them. A big part of my work is working with women and supporting women as they return to work following maternity leave. And I wanted to share a few thoughts on how you might think about returning to work during this coronavirus crisis. I'm hearing lots of different things from women with concerns ranging from whether there'll be work for them to do as they come back into the workplace, how they might manage their work without childcare, and how they might re-establish themselves when they're returning to work in an entirely virtual environment. So I was going to just share a few thoughts on each of these. In my experience, there are 4 themes to a successful transition back to work, and these are having clarity on what really matters to you and your priorities in a working week, setting boundaries and being really clear about your own needs and expectations in terms of yourself, but also in relation to others. Boosting your confidence. Women often find when they return from maternity leave that their confidence takes a hit, and that's often something we work through. And then finally, seeking support and finding your community. So starting with your priorities in a working week, there are 2 sides to your identity when you're coming back to work. There's your professional identity and your maternal identity. And you go through a process of bringing the 2 of those together and working out how you're going to find a balance, find a way of working that kind of addresses both of the needs on each side of your identity. So I wanted to offer you a couple of questions to reflect on. The first is, in a working week, what's important for you to have as a mother? So that might be about time with your baby. If you're still breastfeeding, what feed of the day you're going to do. If you want to maybe do bath time in the evening or breakfast time. So really think about, what do you need in order to nurture that maternal side of your identity? And then secondly, in a working week, what's important for you to have as a professional? What is it that you need to get from your work, from your job, to really nurture and enforce that professional side of your identity? Coming back to work, a key part of this is about getting visible, letting people know that you're back and you're ready and you're available to get stuck in and get involved. So having some stakeholder meetings when you're back in the office, this is perhaps a little bit easier because you might bump into people in the kitchen or in the canteen, or even stop by their desk. But in a virtual environment, it's really important to reach out to those key stakeholders and just ask them a couple of questions. First of all, let them know you're back, and then ask them what you've missed while you've been out, and how you can support them now that you're back. Building on that point about visibility, something that I often find can be a bit challenging the first few months back is not having clear work objectives. Quite often you may find you're coming back and you've been given some space and some time to get your feet back under the table, so to speak, check your emails, catch up with people. But actually what is really useful, and I find very valuable for my clients, is to really identify some tangible tasks, some projects that you can deliver in those first few months back. Not only does this give you something to focus on, but it boosts your confidence as you're back in the workplace. Building on my point about reaching out to stakeholders, make sure you check in with colleagues as well and arrange some virtual coffee catch-ups with them. You may find that your team is doing quiz nights or Thursday night drinks over Zoom or Teams or whatever the virtual platform is that you're using, but make sure you reach out to your colleagues too. Again, this helps to build confidence and to help you feel more connected. If you're using technology, make sure you're clear about when you're available and when you're not available, and I'll come back to that in a second. So often with these sorts of systems, you can have a different light or a kind of a way of letting colleagues know when you're available. Preparing for meetings. When you've been out of the office for a while, you can feel a little bit out of touch with what's been going on. And you may find yourself in a meeting, particularly in a virtual meeting, it can be a bit harder to have your voice heard. So to prepare for a meeting, think about what you might have, a couple of suggestions, ideas, bits of information that you want to share, perhaps up your sleeve, that you can share when the opportunity presents itself. That will help build your confidence and help you feel able to contribute. And finally, asking for feedback. Build this into it so it's informal rather than a formal process. When you're catching up with colleagues, following meetings, when you're delivering some of these tangible tasks, just check in on how you're doing. And again, that really helps to build that confidence and that sense of knowing who you are and getting back in touch with that professional side of your identity. One of the challenges of working in a virtual environment is the normal structure has gone from our day. That usual kind of 9 to 5 has been taken away, and we have these 24 hours in every day, and it's up to us how we carve up that time. So take advantage of that and think about how you can work in focus sprints, particularly important if you're trying to juggle childcare. So one idea is that I've heard from some of my clients is to invest in some really good noise cancelling headphones. Very difficult to work if you can hear your baby crying. If you can find a little corner of the house where you can shut yourself away so you can focus on your work, put your headphones on and do a focus sprint, you will find you get a lot more done in an hour like that than you will do over 5 hours trying to juggle baby with alongside your work. If you're with a partner, contract with him or her about each day or each week in terms of what work you each need to get done and the best times of day for you to be doing that. And that's one of the advantages here. If you're an early riser and you want to get started in the morning and do a good early morning shift, this is your time to take advantage of that. Be really clear with your partner about when you can and cannot be disturbed. There might be some team meetings or some client meetings where you really do not want to have somebody to come in the background. There are other times when actually that's absolutely fine. And there's quite a nice sense of connection, I think, is being built at the moment because we're seeing much more into each other's lives. And finally, the last point I wanted to raise is managing the domestic load or the mental load, which is what it's often referred to. And this can often be a bit of a challenge when you're transitioning from being at home 100% of the time on maternity leave to being back at work. And it's thinking about how you renegotiate or recontract with your partner about who does what in the home. Particularly at the moment when we're working and doing childcare and potentially not having cleaners or nannies or support that we might normally want to have, it's really important to recontract, as I say, with your partner and divide tasks between you so that you're clear on who is responsible for what. And if you find that actually the load is falling more on your shoulders and you're feeling overwhelmed or frustrated, rather than step into a conflict type conversation with your partner, stop for a moment and think about what it is that you need. And then when you go into that conversation, try using this structured conversation. This is really about making it about you rather than about your partner. So you structure it this way. When I see or hear, so for this example, it could be when I see the laundry that I've washed and dried still sitting on the bed 3 days later, I feel overwhelmed. What I need is for you to share this responsibility with me. So would you be willing to put it away if I've done the washing and the drying? I know it sounds really simple, but actually often the simple things are those things that work best. So finally, I really want to encourage you to find some support and find your community. We are all in this crisis together. We've never faced anything quite like this before. We don't quite know what the future holds, and that creates a lot of uncertainty. So look to your colleagues, look for your internal support networks. Often organisations have mum networks or parenting networks. If you've done antenatal classes, connect with your contacts through there. And please do feel free to come and join my community, which is Mums Back to Work, which you'll find on Facebook. So here's how you can get in touch if you'd like to ask any questions or if there's anything that you've seen in this video that would be that you'd like to find out more about. You can contact me at my website or you can find me on Facebook and on Instagram. Thank you so much for listening.